Thanks everybody for coming. Honestly, I didn't expect so many people. It's been 3 days packed with talks, and I really appreciate that you show up. In fact, you just made me lose a bet with a colleague. I expected less than 20 people. There comes another one. Welcome. Yes, thanks for showing up. I really appreciate so many people. Oh, and it's not yet over. All right. Today we are going to talk about the SUSE Best Practices and what it is, and what the SUSE documentation team does. So the agenda for today is, first I'm going to tell a bit about the SUSE documentation team, about the best practices itself, then about the open source toolchain that we use to generate our whole documentation, not only the best practices. And last but not least, I'm going to tell you how to contribute. This picture that you see here was taken recently at Prague at a conference called Write the Docs. This is the SUSE documentation team. In fact, we were the biggest team at the conference, bigger than any other company there, and that's not even all of us. We have recently gotten, there's some team members not on this picture, and there's some members who have joined us recently. I myself have joined in March. Before that, I worked at Collab Systems for 5.5 years as a senior engineer, and I have a background in various open source projects. But my start into the Linux world was with SUSE. SUSE 6.1, I bought it, I think it was in 1998. I still have the original bill, I found it recently. And one of the reasons why everybody by that time was buying SUSE was that it had a really complete, compelling handbook of that size. I still have it today. I've used it for years. It looks like an old phone book now because it's so worn out, but yeah, documentation matters. At the conference at Prague, somebody created you all know the PIX or it didn't happen. At the conference in Prague, somebody created the slogan, docs or it didn't happen. So documentation is not just nice to have, but it's an essential part of every product. Without documentation, you cannot use it, no matter how intuitive your software is or how intuitive you think it is. Most of the time when you're the one to develop the software, you're of course biased. You know the inner workings of your software. For you, there's nothing to document, but it's quite different for the users. And from the user perspective, there will always be questions, and we are striving to answer all of them. Of course, we cannot answer all of them. We cannot cater every use case, but we are trying hard. So to accomplish this, we have the, say, classic documentation that we have been doing for years. That's like the handbook, the printed handbook that I told you about earlier. There are different kinds of documentation, and the classic documentation we maintain sums up to 11,000 pages at the moment. And it's constantly growing, so actually I think the number is already out that we are closer to 12,000 in the meantime. So here you can see, I hope you can see it, it's a little bit small, just a small part of the list. And if we go further into detail, we have different kinds. Of course, we have the release notes. We have 3 big guides for every product: deployment, administration, and the user guide. We have the quick start or the quick installation guide, and we have tuning guides. So all of that adds up to a decent amount of documentation, which is then further translated into different languages. It depends on not all the documentation is translated. Some, like the tuning guide, it's only available in English. Of course, the installation guide or the user guide is translated into, I think at the moment we are at 15 languages. Yes, 15 is correct. And here we are already at a point where you can contribute feedback. So that's one of the reasons why I'm giving this talk, because we want all of you to contribute feedback. Documentation is one important feedback channel. Of course, there are others like the technical support, your sales representative, and Bugzilla or whatever. But if you want to reach us directly, there's an easy way. If you use the online documentation, there's a report bug link in every chapter that creates a bug report, and that ends up in a special system that is called documents, and that makes sure that you reach us and other documentation teams we have in the whole micro-focus group directly. I assume you all have a SUSE login already. If you're using a product, you have it for SCC. That's all you need. Just log in, just provide feedback, log in with the credentials that you use for your SCC as well, provide feedback, and we will be happy to answer your and cater your needs for additional documentation. And in fact, I already got some nice feedback here at the conference where people said, I wanted this or that documented. If there's anything, feel free to come to me after this talk and we can discuss it. But that's not all of it. The documentation team is even more. Of course, we do the software translation coordination. We are not doing the translations ourselves. That is done by a specialized agency that is focused on IT translations. Because, I mean, it's hard to have that knowledge in-house if you have 15 different languages, especially if you think of something like Chinese or Japanese or so. Even for a company of that size like SUSE, it's really hard to have that in-house. But we are working with this agency for years, and it has worked out pretty fine. So that's a well-established process. We also provide a lot of trainings. At the moment, we have a lot of internal trainings because SUSE is growing. We have a lot of new employees. The teams are getting bigger, and we want to encourage all the teams to provide documentation, not just input, but contribute. And yeah, it's basically the same message that I'm going to give here, that every team should document their stuff. I'll get to that in a minute. Then we have also articles and blogs. What you see here is on the right hand, you see an article about the hack of the German parliament written by Markus Feilner. He used to be the chief editor or deputy chief editor of the German Linux magazine, and he is now the team lead of the documentation team. So we actually publish a lot of articles in Linux magazine or under other related magazine, admin magazine, and so on. We also, together with IBM, we work on their red books. So there's plenty of stuff we do, and we are even doing more stuff. Was anybody in the talk about OpenDoc on Tuesday? Okay, so one person. So that's actually, we're trying to conquer new lands of documentation, to do something completely new when no man has gone before. I mean, we have this traditional documentation, handbooks, reference guides, and all that, but we are trying new forms. And one of that is OpenDoc, a partly automated approach, and another are the SUSE Best Practices. Then we also have white papers. There's technical and business white papers. We are only dealing with the technical white papers. but that is not that much to talk about today. So what are the SUSE best practices? Imagine you have a sea and it's out there somewhere. There's so much hidden knowledge in every organization, not just inside SUSE. I mean, we have a lot of field engineers who implement things on site at customers, and they know how to get their stuff done. But there's also a lot of knowledge in your organization. But if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. Docs or it didn't happen. So what we are trying to do is find these treasures, these hidden treasures in your organization, in our organization, in every organization. And we are trying together with our consultants, with our sales engineers, with customer support, and so on, all these information that they have gathered throughout the years, we are trying to bring that up to the surface and bring it into a nice consumable form where, oops, sorry, that was not intended. So that's us. We are diving deep down, or you are diving deep down into your organization and trying to find that hidden treasures. The SUSE, sorry. Just a moment. Okay, that's better. The SUSE best practices are not just about finding the hidden treasures and bringing them up to the surface and making them available for a broader audience, but it's also a promotional instrument, if you will. It not only promotes SUSE or our software or our company, but it could also promote yours. Most of these white papers, at the moment when we started off, we have a lot of white papers written by our own staff, but we are getting requests from partners as well, and that's definitely the road we want to go down. And that's, bringing this hidden knowledge to a broader audience shows your experience, your company's experience in that area, in that field, and that's also a good marketing opportunity, not just for us, but also for you. So it's mainly guides through the SUSE software installation and usage. Think of what I've done before. I worked at Collab Systems. We developed a groupware solution. So of course I have plenty of knowledge about how to set up email servers, larger email server instances, load balanced, failover, whatnot. Unfortunately, the documentation we provided upstream is not necessarily, doesn't fit SUSE 100%. So what we are trying to do is have the recommended way, where you can basically copy the instructions directly, and you know you're ending up, at the end of the day, you have to have a blessed, recommended setup, really best practices. That's how our engineers would do it if they were sitting at the keyboard instead of you. Why did we do it? Well, first of all, there's a need. People are certainly interested in the traditional documentation. There always needs to be a reference guide. I mean, it's a lot of work to write this, and sometimes I wish we wouldn't have to do it. But you cannot get away. It's like, it needs to be there, each and every single option, switch, whatever, needs to be documented somehow. But it's not easy to consume. It's like, if you take the reference guide and try to find that specific piece of information, that might work. But if you try to find the necessary steps, back to the example, the necessary steps to set up an email server, that's going to be quite hard, because you will jump back and forth. So the best practices are more topic oriented. Everything, topic-oriented is a buzzword. Everybody is talking about topic-oriented documentation, so keep that in mind. I needed to use that buzzword. But there's definitely a need for this kind of documentation that is easy to consume. I'm not sure if it's because of the internet and the attention span of people has gone down, but they want something easy to consume and easy and quickly to deploy. So again, the existing knowledge needs to be made available to a broader audience, and that needs to be promoted. It's not just writing it, but also and putting it up on our website, but also promoting it. It's good if it's out there, but it's not useful if nobody knows about it. And if you write something and you put it into your own blog or into your company's blog, the broader audience, like all the SUSE customers, likely won't hear about it. That's why we offer you to basically we do the marketing for you. So in detail, most of the time it's a specific scenario that has been implemented at the customers. Most of the time the customers are running their own or third-party software on top of SUSE. Most of the time, I mean, just think of things like we have heard a lot about SAP, all this stuff. Most of the time, or often, it's also a multi-part solution where it's not just give me a web server, give me an email server, but it's a more complex problem. Most of the time, it's if it comes to third-party software, that's also something that we cannot include in the reference guide or in the traditional documentation. The traditional documentation is only for our own products, where we control 100% of the tool chain, if you will, or 100% of the product. So recently, a customer came up with some really interesting use cases about OBS. He had OBS, he was using it for continuous integration, so he had tied it to GitHub. That's something we can do with OBS, and we were very aware of it. But he also had some really strange use cases that we never thought about. And yeah, implementing these third-party software for his particular requirements, that is exactly something that we will soon publish in a SUSE Best Practice about OBS. So it's not covered by the standard documentation for the reasons I just outlined. It's not. It includes third-party software that is not ours, and usually it's about products that you have already heard of that are well established in the market. If it's just some product that nobody else uses, there's probably not much use for a best practice about it. Why are we reinventing the wheel, you might think? First of all, we are not providing the content. Most of the content comes from somebody else. It's not that we start another series of documentation because we have too much time. In fact, we don't. We have a lot of stuff to document. Just think of the service packs coming more often now. So it's not because we are bored, but really because there's a need, and we have the subject matter experts that share their expertise. But of course, they are not necessarily subject expert matters on documentation, so we help them get it out there. So what we will do is we will support you to share your experiences. It's the open source way. The open source way is not about putting code out there. It's about collaboration, working together with our partners and making the solution. I mean, if you can treat documentation as code, just as we work on code, we can that is later deployed or that is later made available for customers. The same goes for documentation. And That's why we also put everything under a free license. The best practices are under the GPL, unless you have constraints. We can certainly talk about that. But by default, the default is to open. It's supposed to be shared. And not only to be shared, it's also meant to be reused by others. So what can we do for you? We take over the communication. We take over the coordination, the editing, the proofreading, the porting. I'll get to that in a minute. The publication and the promotion. So that's our offer for you. There's quite a lot. Documentation is a process. It's not like you sit down and you write it. Believe me, it's not that easy. There's a multi-step process of editing, just going over it again. And also, there's so many things to take into account. Just think of the tone, how you approach people, how you... so all this needs to have a constant voice. That's why, I mean, we have a dedicated documentation team that has years of experience with documentation, and what we are trying to, or what we are offering you is this expertise. You're the expert on your software or some third-party software that you're using for quite a while, but we are the experts on documentation, and we want to share our knowledge with you. And these steps are just an offer. You can skip a step if you think you can do it on your own. We are willing to assist you wherever you need help, but in the end, it's just an offer. Of course, I would like to encourage you to use our own tools, and that's why I will explain how to use them in a moment. We have different formats. Our tool chain allows generating documentation in HTML, single HTML, EPUB for ebook readers, PDF. In fact, it allows more formats. It allows plain text, which is probably not that useful for a long document. It allows creation of man pages. So all of that comes from one source, and you can, or we can, generate everything that we need from it. This is also a benefit. In fact, there's people even generating or basically printing out our documentation and selling it on Amazon. We just recently found that out. We were not aware of it, but it's free. I mean, you can do it. It's GPL. It's you're free to do what you want with it. So over the time, the SUSE documentation team has developed a complete tool chain to publish open source documentation. So our documentation is open. It's out there on GitHub. The tool chain is open, and the result is open. So we are basically, that's our tools. We are not just diving down, but we have a very sophisticated tool chain, as you can see here. We start off with DocBook XML. That's the main format. It's an extensible markup language. It's an XML dialect that was written for documentation especially. It's semantic language. The semantics allow you to translate this into basically any other thing you need. It's basically future-proof. There's a lot of people who think DocBook is complicated. There's this famous saying, XML is a write-only language because nobody can read it. But I believe in DocBook XML. There are others using different formats like markup language, but the possibilities you have are quite limited, and you have no semantics whatsoever. So semantics is important. If you think of future documentation formats, there's a standard, it's voice XML. If you're at a train station and you hear, or at an airport and you hear these automatic announcements, I mean, I'm not talking about humans talking into a microphone, but automated announcements. All that is done in voice XML. And through the semantics we have, I mean, it's XML. You can easily translate DocBook XML to voice XML, but also through the semantics. This is a command, this is an optional parameter, and so on. You have all the hierarchy, the whole semantics. So it's basically future-proof. You can translate it into anything you want, and we are open to these future formats of documentation. So maybe we will have, well, audiobooks, not necessarily, but we will have spoken whatever documentation in the future, and that's why we stick to DocBook. And also, I'm not sure if you can see this. For DocBook, you need an editor. We all know how fighting about the right editors is. There's this site online, this Tumblr blog called Classical Programmer Paintings. This painting is called Emacs versus Vim, the never-ending battle. Our team is using a broad variety of editors. We have just listed some. There are both open source as well as proprietary ones. Yeah, we basically have given up fighting. Just use whatever editor you're using anyway. In fact, you could use, I think even Word, Microsoft Word can produce XML if you have the right DDT. It's probably not the well, I wouldn't be overly happy if I had to read anything that was created by Word, because it's probably not really human readable, but it would work in theory. So there's so many editors out there, just use whatever you want to use. Next up, we have a tool that is called DAPS. It's the Digital Authoring and Publishing Suite. It was written by SUSE. This is the tool that translates DocBook XML into any output format that you want. We start off, it was written, almost 10 years ago we started off. It was written by our team lead, or no, not team lead, project manager, Frank Sundermeier. And yeah, with a single command, we can convert DocBook to any format. You can just say DAPS PDF, DAPS HTML, ---- single, DAPS TXT, and so on. So this is it's a command line tool, but it's a quite powerful tool. And it's not only used by SUSE. I mean, it has been out there. The code is out there on here you see OpenSUSE GitHub.io/DAPS. The code is out there. It's used by other companies as well. We recently received a pull request from, I'm not sure, you probably know Zalando. So these guys are using it as well. So obviously the tool chain has received broader adoption. Yeah, I already told you about the output formats. Of course, this is a bit difficult to show. Here we have the online doc. This is both HTML. Here, this is a special style sheet where you have basically the contents at the top. Here you have the contents on the side. Over there you see the PDF version, but it's all the same. And you can adjust the design. I mean, it's just style sheets over. You can make it blue or red or whatever you like. You can have a different logo there. So it's very powerful to generate whatever you need in whatever design you need. As I just mentioned, the style sheets, here we have different style sheets. And when we started off with the best practices, the only thing that we had to do was design a new style sheet, because we want, of course, you want all the best practices in one layout, that they all look nice together. You can have different, you can have books. So the simplest is the article. Then you can combine articles to chapters, you can combine chapters to books, and then if you don't pay attention, you might end up with a very big manual. But that's something for later. So typically, a best practice would be just one article, say 2 pages, 3 pages, 6 to 15 pages, I would say. Then we have the style guide. It's our own style guide that defines like if you have think of phrases. If you have recurring phrases, of course you want to make sure that you have consistent spelling, consistent tone and voice in your documentation and all that. And that's defined in our style guide. The style guide is also available online. It's also on GitHub, so it's open for everybody. Like we have things like acronyms in there to make sure we always use the same, and yeah. And we not only have a style guide, but we also have a style checker that helps us to find problems. For example, here, ASAP is an acronym that you shouldn't use. So it helps. So red, of course, marks an error. Yellow it's a question or a note. This tool basically implements not all the rules, but a lot of the rules that the style guide recommend. Again, this tool is free software. Feel free to play around with it. Feel free to use it. Everything is stored in Git. And we are not only using Git, we are using a tool that is called Git Flow. I'm not sure if you have heard of it. Git Flow is a Git extension. It's nothing that you couldn't do with Git yourself, but Git Flow helps you implementing a consistent branching model where you have the development branch that is moving forward all the time, and then you can have feature branches, maintenance feature branches, bug fix branches, and maintenance branches. And the master branch, we only use the master branch for releases. So here we develop, sometimes here we develop a new feature or so, and at some point we decide, okay, we make a release, it gets tagged, and that becomes the official blessed version of the documentation. Again, Git Flow is yeah, no rocket science, but it helps. I mean, a lot of people of you are probably already working with Git. We all know that Git is very powerful, but it's also sometimes very hard, and that's where Git Flow helps. If I would start a new feature branch, I would just say Git Flow feature name, start. I work on it, I commit, and so on. And when I'm done with everything and it was proofread by somebody else, I say Git Flow feature finish. And that makes sure my feature, which was developed here in a branch or here in a branch, is merged cleanly back into the development branch. So it's a very nice tool, not only for documentation, it's basically, you can use it for everything. As I already mentioned, our documentation is out there on GitHub, so I just did something, I merged it into the branch, then I push it back to GitHub. Here we have the GitHub repository of the SUSE Best Practices, but you can also find all our documentation. The 11,000 pages I just talked about earlier, they are all out there on GitHub /SUSE. We also have some parts on GitHub /OpenSUSE, for example, the style checker, the style sheets, the toolchain. But the SUSE documentation is all on GitHub. And again, it's free for you to use, to reuse, to rewrite it. If you have a problem, you can also, I mean, I would love to have pull requests for our documentation. If you don't want to do pull requests, just send us feedback through the feedback link that I showed you earlier. Okay, now we have heard about the tools. The other side is the workflow. And yeah, as you can see, it's a bit complicated. So you come, or we get requests. We have different input sources for these requests. And we have, well, of course, something is just written by email. That's the case where you just send the feedback through the link. We have Bugzilla. Some customers enter feedback in Bugzilla, or it turns out, while our support is dealing with a bug, it turns out, oh, it's not actually a bug, it's just not documented behavior. So we turn that into a documentation request. Also, we have a tool called FATE, Feature and Enhancement Tracker, which is also open source software. You can find it as OpenFate. Not sure if it's on GitHub or, but it's out there. It's open source. So we get these requests through different input channels. We evaluate them. We accept them. We have the project manager and the documentation team and so on. Then we need to organize these requests. There we use Trello. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people use Trello. It's just a nice workboard. We could use something else. Then we create the infrastructure that we need, a GitHub repository, or, well, we just start with a blank file, with a placeholder basically. Then we do the research that is necessary to document something. Then we actually start writing. And writing is not that easy. You will have several revisions, but that's what version control is for. Then we build. Build is done with DAPS. Then it goes to QA, or it gets again edited. It's also proofread by the experts, by the subject matter experts in-house. And when we are really happy, and when we have run all this, like, style check, spell check, validation, and so on, then, or proofreading, that's basically the QA that you do on docs, and after that it's sent to translation and it's published. Again, you don't need to worry about that because we are offering you to do all that for you. So to submit feedback, oh, also, you can send email directly. If you use the email address doc-team@suse.com, it will reach a shared email folder, so all the members of the documentation team can see it. You can contact your SUSE account or partner executive, or you can, if it's for best practices in particular, send an email to Maike. Maike is coordinating the whole efforts around the best practices. Yeah, then we also have Bugzilla, so there's plenty of ways for you to submit feedback. I suggest that if it's a technical thing, you would probably go through your accountant and partner executive first to see if it's really like problems and so on. Problems, for example, belong into Bugzilla after you have contacted your accountant partner executive. But again, if it's something for where you're sure it's directly documentation, contact us via email. If it's something with best practices, contact Maike via email directly. And I've told you about all the workflow because, of course, I would love all of you to send me proofread, perfectly styled DocBook XML documents, but we are not expecting that. In fact, we have people who do that. We have partners working on documentation who have just taken our documentation on GitHub, created their own fork, and later submitted a pull request. Perfect. But you don't need to. You can just throw everything at us, no matter if it's just a plain ASCII document, if it's a PDF, if it's LibreWriter, whatever. We will take it and we will make it not only looking nicely, but we will make it a true piece of documentation that fits into our series, that follows our quality standards, and then it will be published. So you wonder, should I really contribute? Yes, please. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm giving this talk. That's why I want to encourage all of you to think a moment about what your company is focusing on, where your area of expertise is. I'm pretty sure that out of these 20-something people we have here, I see at least 5 best practices here. I'm not sure who of you it is, and I'm not sure what it will be, but I'm pretty sure this knowledge is out there somewhere in the sea. So let's go diving together. Let's try to bring it out. If you have any topic that you want to suggest, feel free to come to me and discuss it. Yeah, I just say, propose your topic, share your experience that you have. It's not only about implementing something, but running something also in infrastructure that needs to be, say, highly availability. How did we implement that, and how did we keep it alive throughout the holiday season when everybody was just hammering our servers? So it's there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about. And of course, we also have the experts in-house that will tell you. I mean, we won't necessarily, the documentation team cannot judge on the technical content of what you submit. That's why we have the experts. They will tell, oh, that's awesome. Maybe they will tell, oh, we should implement this in a different way because that's not the recommended way. That's not the best practice. You can do it, but you can also shoot yourself in the foot. I'm pretty sure that you don't do that because you already have your partner accountant helping you. But again, just send everything to us. Share your experience and benefit from the knowledge of others. Make sure, yeah, get everything, just throw it at us and make sure, you can be sure that it will be published in a nice way that benefits. It's a high quality technical paper, and that's a joint opportunity for marketing for both your and our promotional machine. That increases not only our visibility, but also your visibility, and last but not least, the value or the visibility of documentation. That's something that I cannot stress enough. If you have a product, no matter how good it is, you need documentation, and you need to raise awareness for documentation. Your developers need to know that without documentation, it's worth nothing. Every page of documentation, every page that is missing in the handbook is one more support request. It's one more hour spent from your accountant or from your technical support. It's also a cost factor. So the better your software is documented and the better your experience is documented, it's definitely something where every hour that you spend on documentation definitely pays out. And I'm pretty sure that also every hour that you spend on a best practice to share your experience will pay out. And in the end, we end up with not only a single coin, but we found the true treasure, and that is the hidden knowledge in your and in my organization. So thanks a lot for joining this talk. If you have any questions, now is the right time to ask. No questions? Something on the tool chain, or why aren't you using this, or I heard this is much better than that. Okay, who's in here to volunteer to write a best practice? You won't get out until I have at least 5 people. No, there's no reason to be ashamed, or there's no reason to go on stage now. Feel free to contact me. I will be around. I can give you my business card, and again, you can just contact Maike Chabowski. It's chabo@suse.com. And if you have further questions, I will be around. All right.